Okay, now welcome everybody to the podcast, and welcome to Machiel and to his wonderful book on dreams. And I'm really delighted, Machiel, to talk to you, because I also have been wanting for ages to really develop a better dream yoga. And your book is the best one I've seen lately about how to learn to become a lucid dreamer. And that is an absolutely essential practice to prepare for the bardo, to prepare. You don't have to be a Buddhist even. You prepare for bardo, prepare for death, prepare for navigating the bardo properly and finding a good rebirth. And so your book is it. So how does it work? Tell us.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's exciting to be here. I've been looking forward to this. And well, to start with lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming, as most people know, is a dream in which you know that you are dreaming, and it has many advantages to become aware in the dream state.
Yes.
And it ranges from the ability to ask for support and guidance for one's own life problems. You can yell out a question. Is there anyone with a message for me? Or you can ask for an experience. And then in the further stages, you can really start learning how the dream world is created. And once you start noticing that, you start seeing how that reality is real and is created, and also how this reality is created in the same way. And that has a lot of benefits, because then you start exploring the nature of reality. And we can make the assumptions that the bardo and all these other states are created in similar ways, and then we can navigate through the territory once we're there.
Yes, that is really wonderful. Now, how did you come upon it yourself? How did you learn to do this yourself? What's your story? Where are you, by the way? And again, you're against that nice brick wall. Where are you located right now?
I am these days. I live in Salt Lake City, but
really
the accent
Salt Lake City. Wow.
Yeah. It's I've landed here. I used to live in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and before that, I was born in South Africa, and I got a job offer here in Salt Lake, and so I moved, and now I've grown down a bit.
That's great. And when did you start knowing dreams? Was it a spontaneous thing, or how did it happen?
Well, I was in my early 20s. That I was really in dire need of the dreams, and I was in a darker spot. I hadn't dealt well with the death of my father, who died when I was 10.
Dear. Dear.
Very painful, and the unresolved grief made me somewhat depressed. And being in the pit, I lacked a future vision. I was sitting on the couch too much, doing nothing. And by some fortunate chance, I read the works of Carl Jung, who wrote extensively about dreams. And then I started looking at my own dreams, and at once my somewhat limited worldview, that was limited to more or less what I could see, really opened up to another reality, and that the dream is really a reality in its own. It's actually a fundamental aspect I think about dreams is that it is a world that you find yourself in at night. And once I start learning that world, it showed me a lot of things I was doing in my day-to-day life. So in that way, it can form somewhat of a psychological X-ray. Yet at the same time, I reconnected with my father in the world of dream, and so I started noticing, when you're dead, it's not the end of the journey. Actually, you go to other realms, and
fantastic.
He
told you that.
Yeah, and I had conversations with him, and later on with other people that live in the other world, the world of the dream, or sometimes call it the other, another world. And it changes life so significantly from maybe there is something after death to, oh, life goes on. And then to explore what might also be some criteria on the moment that you move to this other world. And that really drives also a sense of purpose in this world, because in a certain way, death is the end point of life, and the end point really defines the journey. And if you have a certain belief about what death is, that will influence the way you live this life. So it's maybe the most pragmatic thing we can do is ponder about death, because that really put us on the journey.
That's very true. That's 100% true. And then does that mean that, so did you then go on from that and study more other things about dream yogas or dream messages and so on? What other things?
Yeah, I became bordering obsessed by reading all kinds of dream traditions. I really studied Jung for a while. That was the first one. And then I traveled to Asia and spent a year in Asia. Went to India and Tibet, and really learned there these really profound traditions that look really at not only in what does the dream mean, but how can we learn about from the dream how that reality is created. And I think one of the central things is in the dream we can see how our mind or psyche creates this world, and how there's, I sometimes metaphorically call it, there's an inner painter that paints a world in dream, and then it begs the question, what kind of paint does this painter use? And so it uses, in one way you could say, it uses our karma, by which it just paints a reality that we perceive. So we really see our own mind, or in Jungian terms, it uses a lot of our complexes and wounds and gifts. Or what you also can see is the world is created out of our own beliefs and expectations, intent, willpower, focus, and so mystery force X. And then you see that in the dream state, this world is created by one's mind or psyche, but also this reality is created in identical ways. So what we see is always our own world, and there's somewhat of an outer world, but this painter paints over this world, and that world then reflects back our beliefs and expectations and intent and or our karma, and so we can learn how to work with our karma or navigate this world in a way that's really optimal.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. It's incredible. And so you said you came to, so that's what you mean maybe by that wonderful phrase you said, a psychological X-ray of our waking issues and waking state.
Yes.
And did you ever study about the philosophical Indian scientific concept of emptiness, shunyata?
I attempted to, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere an expert
but you are. But you naturally understand it. I said Indian scientific psychological concept. I didn't say Buddhist. It's not a religious thing. And you do understand it, I think, very well, because what you're saying is exactly the fruit of understanding emptiness. Because what emptiness is where it opens the canvas of that, what we think of as the given ordinary world, a waking world, And it makes us realize that by gradually dissolving the seeming absolute objectivity of everything, it opens it up as a canvas for our painting, and then we become more responsible for our painting. And so you precisely understood emptiness by using the dream to relativize your experience of the so-called given external reality, and to begin to see how you are coloring that reality and you're creating it. And each of us has our own version of the given external reality. And they somehow meet in a subtle way. It's not all right, and it's not solipsism. It's not solipsistic. In other words, our version meets the other version. Right. In other words, you and I are meeting on a podcast, and we each have a version of what we're doing, but they meet somewhere, and yet each of them is different because we bring to it our own painter, as you put it. So then, tell us more about the painter. How this helps you paint more skillfully, perhaps, or take your own painting with a grain of salt, or how do you see it?
Yes, because the painter uses, let's say, our karma, and in a certain way, it paints also the areas where we need to engage.
Yes.
So certain areas become more colorful, whether it is a darker color or a lighter color. And the color usually isn't the indicative element, but the intensity of the color, which either draws us in or pushes us away, signals to us that there is some unresolved or invited area to work on. Maybe it's our karma or a complex. And so we might be afraid to speak up to our boss. Then our own painter has painted over our boss a certain color, a certain experience that we need to engage with, and so the intensity of the colors are guiding posts in our life. And the more that we know that this boss is not really the boss, but it's our own psyche that we need to engage with, the better off we are.
Yes. That's really great. Now you mentioned that you studied a lot of Jung, Carl Jung, in doing that. And where in his work did you find the things that were the most useful in coming to this profound understanding that you exhibit? And what I love about it is, some people will say, oh, that's Buddhist philosophy. But no, it's reality. And you discovered it just by exploring reality with the help of Jung initially, and then later some Buddhist and Hindu teachers. So it's a general worldwide, what we call in India, Adhyatma Vidya, inner science. And you discover it from reality. You don't discover it from this or that ideology or religion or what have you. And of course, different Jung might not agree in every point with this particular Buddhist writer or that particular Hindu writer. They might not agree with each other, but they might agree with each other. Two Hindu writers might disagree with each other. Two Buddhist writers might disagree with each other. They're all actually inner scientists or psychologists, philosophers studying reality. And you studied it yourself, and you came up with the same understanding, and then developed the same unique abilities because of your own karma, you could say, your own special wiring and your own previous life, even, let's say. So tell us, where in the Jung work did you find the most important and interesting things?
Well, Jung never really writes a lot about lucid dreaming. But what one of the essential initial steps was the dream is a reality, and our own imagination is a reality. And I think especially here in the West we discount that, and it's being marginalized. Step one is imagination, dream is real, and one of the things I've always been baffled by is we go to bed And then we're in a world, in this dream, that we completely take for real.
Yes.
We very seldom, besides when we're lucid, think, oh, this alligator is actually a dream alligator, or this is a dream car. And so we are in a world that we take for real. Then we wake up, and that world goes away, and then we're in this world that we take for real. So we have a tendency to be constantly in a world that we take for real, and usually as the only reality.
Yes.
And by understanding that there is a dream reality, and there's this reality, and there are multiple realities, but that there are these several realities that we live in, and that we all take for real. And once we know it, it relativizes each reality significantly, and we start living in a different way. So that is where Jung really helped me to move into exploring reality in that way. And I think most of Jung's work is more on dream interpretation and how do you build relationship with the dream characters. So also some of the dream characters are real beings that live in the other world. Yes, they can possess about greater awareness or wisdom, or they can help us.
That's wonderful.
So
you mentioned that you came to Salt Lake because you had a job. Are you working in the dream world? Is that the job you have, or are you doing an ordinary, sort of more ordinary, regular world job, or what?
I was working in marketing 18 years ago. Then I became a mental health therapist here in.
Great!
I went to Pacifica School in Santa Barbara. And so I've been a mental health therapist with a specialty on working with dreams and this background notion of how life is, because I think it's really important to have a good view.
I have another name. I have another name for maybe your overall job. Just came to me. You're the imaginator. There's the Terminator and there's the Imaginator. And it's not a word, but we should make a word out of it. In other words, because of your discovery, because, see, that's the thing. See, people wrongly think, even so-called Buddhist people think, or actual Buddhist people think that the emptiness thing means that to wake up from the quote-unquote seemingly objective real world is everything is just space and empty space. And you can't have an experience of empty space where that's everything. You don't even have a body in it. You just are the empty space. That kind of experience is meditatively achievable, and they think that's the higher reality. But that's a mistake because of the non-duality of emptiness, because that is also empty. The space experience is also empty. It's also a painting. There's an imaginate. We're imaginating the space in a way. And so the goal, the real awakening is where you know that this world, so-called dream world, is also simultaneously the space, pure space, and is also simultaneously a dream. And then there are multiple dreams, etc. And then you become much more, in other words, instead of escaping into space, you become much more responsible about how you paint the world. And therefore you become much more karmically responsible. And you don't want to paint it badly, ever. And you help others, you help influence others to not paint it badly, to know and not see too many enemies and too many things, project their difficulties into others, and, project the demon onto the boss so they can't talk to the boss. And they secretly hate the boss, and therefore they don't do good work, or they blow up the company or whatever, you know what I mean, if it gets really bad. So that's really, so it's Machiel the Imaginator. That's it.
I love having this new term, Bob.
Good. I love it too. Yes. I hope to join you, I hope to join you and become. I'm not as good as you on this, and I hope to learn more from your work. I have already learned a bit, but I'm stupidly too busy about too many things in the so-called real world, and I therefore don't pay enough attention to my dream things. And I don't call it, even though it's a major practice of Tibetan Buddhism, but I don't do it enough. And you're encouraging me from reality. That's what I love about it. It's because it means it's not just some dogmas, you know. So now let me ask you this. Now, are you still talking to your dad occasionally? Do you encounter him and still talk to him?
Yeah, once in a while, not so frequent anymore. But it's really comforting, and I say hi to him once in a while.
Oh, good. But has he given you any indication of where he might have decided to take rebirth in a meat space world or in a more coarse level reality world? He has not given any indication of that. Not yet. No, I see. That is so fascinating. I don't know if you I have a friend who does contact with people, you know, in the dream world, let's say, or in the between world, and sometimes they've already been reborn somewhere, and they inform him about it, but they're still available in the subtle world. So it doesn't. It's not precluding one another. At least according to his discovery. Rich Martini is his name. I don't know if you ever bumped into him. He lives. He's a West Coast guy, Hollywood sort of guy. He's a film guy, but he also does this as become a main thing for him. He has a book called Flip Side. He calls the between state the flip side.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he works with mediums, you know, sensitives, and I don't know if his dream thing. He might be back with me in a lesser level than you, as being really immediately adept at sort of lucid dreaming anytime type of thing, which I'm not able to do, although I sometimes get into it. But I have to. I could probably, if I really focus on it, calm down my lifestyle, which I should do, for crying out loud. I'm in my 80s, and but I still find myself having some duties that keep me busy, which is, you know, although my wife claims maybe it's my workaholic habit, I don't know, but I'm trying to lessen it. So,
your awareness practice would set you up as an ideal candidate to also be aware in the.
Well, I want you to be my teacher. I'm gonna more thoroughly read your book, and I want you to be my teacher through the book first, of course, and then I'll be more in touch because we'll do more podcasts, because I'm very, very moved and touched by encountering the Imaginator.
Thank you. And it makes me also think of a couple of things you point out, and that is, one is dreaming and lucid dreaming helps a person to have this own experience. Yes. I think that stood so out when you said that, is you don't have to believe anything, because you can explore it for yourself.
Yes.
And that's of course a crucial difference. Yeah. And this is a technique that people can practice and learn how the painter operates. Yes. I can maybe give a quick example that pops into my mind.
Oh, good. What's that?
Well, I was once in a dream, and I was running with these big steps, and at once I think, oh my gosh, this is a dream, and so it become lucid. And then I stand in front of a house, also with a brick wall like this. And I think, can I push, because this is a dream, can I push through the wall with my hand? Which I can. And I thought, of course I can, because I expect it to be. And so I can push through it. So your expectation creates the reality. Yes. If I expect I cannot. So I push my hand through the wall. And then it's in the wall, and I feel the stones even around my arm, and I'm always amazed by how real these things feel. And then I think, what if I don't want to be able to pull my hand back? And I try it, but I can. And so I pull my hand out of it. And I took that, and then I do some other things, and I wake up, write it down. And then it really made me ponder on expectation. Yes. Is overrides willpower, and that is, as a therapist or for in this reality, so important,
Oh,
Because
that
if my expectation is that people don't like me, then my expectation is going to co-create that reality, and there will be more people start behaving in a way that people more often will not like me. But willpower won't change that, because if my expectation functions on a deeper level than my willpower, so just by telling myself I don't want this, or some affirmation, is not going to change the expectation level. So I need to work on a level where I slowly start changing the way I expect the world to work.
Yes.
Because that then will start changing the world. So my inner painter has negative expectation, and I can create a different paint that is more conducive.
That is fabulous, Machiel. You know what I mean? When you said that, I decided I would try to see if maybe I couldn't pull my hand out. I was frightened for you for a second there, because, you know, if it was that easy to shift, you know, then you might find yourself trapped there, and then you couldn't change that one. It would turn the experience really bad. So in a way, that's really incredible. It's a deep example, but in a way, what it would say would be that there might be a level of cultivation where you could unify your expectation and your willpower, so that you could be conscious at both levels of them. And then if you can do that in the dream, but please don't do it with your hand stuck in a wall. You know, you might get stuck, you know, but do it with something a little less dramatic. But the point is, it seems that the adepts are able to unify that in the waking state. And there's a famous story about the great scientist and mendicant and eventually adept called Chandra Kirti, who lived in the 7th century. Nobody knows the exact dates, but it was pretty clearly the 7th century, 600s. And he was walking in the courtyard of, or in the sort of large gallery of the big monastic university called Nalanda, very famous, where people were pursuing these kind of sciences, inner science, especially all the outer ones too, like medicine and botany and et cetera, but the inner ones, physics of certain types. But inner science was considered the chief science, of course, because it's what really controls our life. And he was with a student who was a little bit debating him. And then he kind of bumped into a pillar. It was in a you know, it was a big old architecture. There were many pillars in the hall. And he bumped into the pillar. So the student kind of said, well, you see, the pillar's not really empty. You know, you don't really know that it's empty or something. Ha ha. And so he then turned and he waved his hand right through the pillar, and he said, what pillar? So it's considered a famous story. And of course, Westerners discount it as just some superstition, you know, but so-called modern people. But this connects to what you were talking about beautifully, in the sense that he was in the conventional expectation world, the consensus world. And then he bumped into people of meet space talking to a student. He wasn't meditating, and he wasn't doing lucid dreaming. He was doing that. But he had attained the ability of unifying when he wanted to. Yeah. And he didn't want to go staggering around walking through pillars, because then all the students would get all woo-woo, you know, freaked out. And they wouldn't really work on where they were at. You know, they wouldn't really study where they were. They wouldn't study the reality, because they'd be thinking they could do, there's some gimmick where they could just jump into an artificial reality.
Right.
So he normally would have been doing that after class, or whenever the student was whatever context the student had encountered him. But then in order to demonstrate to the student that he has to go deeper, then go, nobody can change the meat space, you know, what the computer people call meat space reality, not the virtual reality. He showed that to him it could be a virtual reality, and he was put his hand right through the wall, you know, through the pillar. You know. So that's really, your story is really working in that zone. It's really, really interesting, and doing it without formal. You're not being formally religious. You're not promoting belief systems, but you are showing the responsibility of people that their belief systems will impact their perceptions.
Yeah.
And that is the first important key step for people to learn to take responsibility for what they do. You know, the one thing that you know, and let me just share one thing with you. I know we're running late, but let me just share a little bit with you, this one thing. And that is that I personally am very worried about the climate and the planet, as I know you are.
Yeah.
But the consensus reality of the modern culture, not just Western, but modern, so-called quote unquote modern or even postmodern culture, is that at death nothing happens. In other words, you go into nothing. And it is so false that the scientific materialist people make themselves into high priests by assuring everybody, confirming this consensus reality. So on the level of our conversation, that is confirming a mass expectation that no matter what they do, that's bad karma, destructive to other animals, other people, other cultures, even the planet. There's no consequence because they just automatically become nothing. And they even express a fear of being nothing as if that was a bad thing because maybe they're happy, maybe they have a lot of money and they have physical pleasures, you know, so it'd be terrible to be anesthetized when you're in pleasure. Yeah. But of course, they also have aches and pains. They bump into things. They have heartbreaks. They have trouble. And so secretly, nobody's afraid of nothing, right? It's an insane person who's afraid of nothing, right? So that means that this expectation, however, is blocking people from stepping up to the responsibility of doing with a little bit less, of having a little less immediate pleasure for some longer-term benefit, of taking a little hit themselves to save some other person, and to save the whole planet. Like, you know, act like Greta Thunberg tells us, act like it is the emergency that it is, you know. And they don't want to do that, but it's the underlying expectation that, well, Death Star that we created ourselves, you know, like, you know, a Star Wars Death Star, we're creating to destroy our life on our planet. But never mind, everybody won't remember that they ever had a life, and they'll all be nothing, so it'll all be good. Meanwhile, it's insane to think you can be nothing. Because nothing is not anything anybody can be, because it's not there. There's no such place. It's not an empty, dark space. That's not nothing, that's a space. So there's no way you can guarantee yourself nothing. And they're lying to themselves, of course. They're honestly saying because they think that, but they're lying to themselves. But anybody at an immediate moment's notice knows that nothing is nothing, and no one has discovered, it's not an empirical discovery, that people become nothing, right? Right.
I hadn't thought it through that way, but that is so true,
isn't it?
And it begs the question: how do we help to change this expectation? Or
exactly.
And there's, I think, many ways. Meditation can do that. In my case, it was the notion of there are dreams, and dreams are populated by ancestors. Yeah. And you can have conversations with them, and then at once, bang, that expectation will break, and one will engage in a different way with life, and a more heart-based.
Right, but traditionally, the ultimate way of realizing that there's no nothing is coming up in meditation or in life with an experience of nothing, and then letting go into it, and then not arriving anywhere. And then everything is back. And in a way, but on a simplistic level, everybody has that every night when they go unconscious. And then they wake up again. Or they take sodium pentothal in the surgery, and then they're back again. So in other words, nothing doesn't hold you. And the level of viscerality with which you experience that teaches you the falseness of promising people that nothing will receive them. And in a proper scientific method, where you don't take dogmas as outweighing experience, on a common sense level, we can experience that you can't find nothing, and you don't. It's a misexpression, So there's two levels. Yeah. There's this. So, but the point is, a great teacher like yourself, which you are doing through your book, and you are arising as the imaginator. Which you will have a great influence, I believe. I think your work is really great. I do. And therefore, you will be able to get people to use laughter to realize that they ain't know nothing.
Yeah. Thank you. And if I can add to how dreams also can help with that, was once I was in a dream, and again I became lucid.
Yes.
And in the lucid state, I was looking around, and I thought, let me change some of the clouds, and I couldn't do that, which normally belongs to some possibility.
Yes.
And then I felt in the dream, and I felt my body, and I thought, gosh, I'm so awake. This must be waking life. And then I just run down the creek, and which in itself should give me the clue that it was a dream. And I woke up from that. But what I learned there is that actually in this moment that we are asleep, and usually we don't remember it, and this so-called nothing, our mind is awake. It's just not aware. I use these terms a little bit in my own definition, but you're in the dream state, your mind is awake. You have all these experiences, and you're just not aware, one, that it is a dream, and the next morning you haven't remembered it. So there wasn't nothing.
Yeah,
you just haven't remembered it.
Brilliant, wonderful.
That's a whole different thing.
That's really, really great. That is wonderful. Well,
and everyone can test that for themselves, so that will help them know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Machiel. Now listen, I want to do another podcast with you pretty soon, even if you have time on your book tour and everything. And when I have more time, I'm in the middle of one travel and another travel, and a bit of organizing something later and another travel, and I'm in a sort of frazzly mood. Frazzly time period just now. That's how I'm dreaming anyway. I'm waking, dreaming, and since I'm not lucid waking enough, but I have discovered you, Machiel. What does Machiel mean? What kind of name is that, Machiel? And am I pronouncing it right, by the way?
Yeah, that I'm surprised how well you pronounce it. It's a Dutch name. It has a Jewish origin. It has something to do with, it's different meanings, but something one with God or one with the universe.
It does. It's not the name of an angel.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah. It's
wonderful, Machiel. That's wonderful, Machiel. Well, please be my angel and helping me learn to be more better on lucid dreaming. And I'm going to study more carefully the book, and then we will meet again. And I really learned already a lot from you just talking now. And I hope to have another conversation very soon if you have time, So we'll talk through Beth and we'll find out, okay? So thank you so much. And everyone, this is Machiel, and he has this wonderful book. And please tell us your book. What's the name of the book? And tell us.
It's titled Dream Guidance, How to Get Guidance in the Dream State. Yeah.
Is it subtitle too? What's the subtitle?
Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation.
Okay, wonderful. And listen, don't listen to some Buddhists who tell you Buddhists don't have a soul. Of course there is a soul. To the Buddhist, it means a very subtle continuum of the self, but not a fixated thing that just stays without changing, like a rigid barcode or, like a geometric thing that never changes. That's not, that's what's rejected. But the flowing, super subtle, pure energy is so subtle that that people even don't detect it, not just, it's related to electricity and to wind and to energy, but it's very, very subtle. And that's the soul, So can you say the title again? I love it. Please say the full title. Dream Guidance.
Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation.
Through Dream Incubation.
Yes.
I didn't ask you about that incubation. So we'll start with Dream Incubation next time. Next time. Thank you so much. Okay.
It's a pleasure and delight to be with you, Bob. You're very kind. I look forward to the next encounter.
You too. Igualmente, as they say. I don't know how to say that in Dutch. All the best.
All the best.